So you get offered the part to play one of the most the famous serial killers of our time. I mean, what goes through your mind regarding, whether it was the right decision to make for you?
Yeah, it was. The words were, "I don't wanna." I was like I don't wanna. So that was sort of my mantra for a really long time. Um, a lot, that was born out of the kind of, two things. One is the sort of feeling of the, not that one can do a lot about this, but a sort of a feeling about responsibility, and how to address material that, is sort of, has the potential for being sensationalized or existing in the realm of the ghoulish. That was one thing. And then the other thing was just, what would it be like to absorb that material? Would it be any fun, or would it just be sort of revolting the whole time? But, when I met Amber Seeley, I was, she was an open book to me, and I was one in kind, and sort of was able to sort of express all of my concerns with her. And she shared some of them with me, and had an interesting take on how to make a picture about this subject that, was going to provide, all of the intrigue that we have towards stories like this, but also there would be present a kind of something that calls into question the why of it as well. And when I saw the film, I think she kind of managed to balance that out in a really fine and deft way.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, there has been quite a few films made about Ted Bundy. But I thought this was slightly different, obviously, because it was obviously about Bill's relationship with him as well.
Yeah.
It gave it that fresh take on it.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's quite dialogue heavy as well, which I can imagine was quite hard to film for you as well. I mean, what kind of research did you do to dig into Bundy's character while he was on death row?
Sort of the standard stuff. There's a lot of footage available, which was great for sort of providing the kind of exterior of a character. You can glean stuff from the voice, from the breath, from the physicality. All of those things are very useful tools to getting into something, especially something that I was so reluctant to do. I found that a lot of the, you mentioned the dialogue, like it wasn't easy to sit and go over these words and try to kind of lock them in. It kind of it just felt painful, but in terms of the research, it was watching him and also listening to a lot of the audio tapes that are available, some provided by Bill. Bill himself was available over the phone, so I was able to have a couple great conversations with him, which I think more than anything was the biggest help in terms of helping me to understand the story that we were telling, and it also just humanized the story that we were telling for me. He was also there to kind of authenticate anything that was in the script that felt a little bit overzealous. He was available to say that those things weren't in fact the way it went down, and that was just a really lucky charm to have. I mean, you don't get that very often in situations like this. So I would say Bill was the biggest resource.
Yeah, has he actually seen the film as well? What do you know his thoughts?
I don't know. I have a hunch that he's seen it, because I think Amber maybe has mentioned it on a group interview, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you had access to Bill as well, and how working with Elijah for all that time as well. I mean, how did you feel like, you know, you could really delve into that character opposite Elijah with his performance as well? It's how did the relationship between you bring that performance together?
I mean, I adore Elijah as an actor, just, you know, and my, you know, my hunch about him is sort of, you know, what I think a lot of people feel is that, you know, that he's a kind of sweet and kind person, and it, you know, that turns out to be the case. I'm here to say it's true. He's also a really dedicated worker, you know, and has a, you know, a strong curiosity about the work and about what we're doing, and is a great presence. He also comes with a degree of a kind of a degree of ease, which I think is also important to, you know, the work. I think one can get so bound up in the tightening around, you know, making a performance that it becomes breathless. And so in some ways there was a kind of we had to sort of do a dance of push and pull, you know. And but he was just a wonderful dance partner, and you know, in that room that we were in, you know, it was really just the two of us. And so in between takes, we were, you know, we were just sort of there and present. And, you know, more than anything, we talked about food for whatever reason. And we were both kind of foodies. And I think, you know, I didn't have a big appetite during the shooting of it, but I was thinking about food a lot. And so it was kind of that, you know, it had a kind of ease, but, you know, I think that that's a good way to be able to dive back in.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, how do you manage to keep, you know, in between takes, because it is such a heavy dialogue and a heavy subject. Were you able to keep any like jovial, I don't know, jovial things going on between to keep things light?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. You know, I think one of the things that was clear about the story we were telling is that, you know, that probably wasn't absent from the room that those two men were in either, you know. And I think for the character I'm playing, I'm sure that he was, you know, as much as he was using Bill as a tool to kind of try and rescue him from his doom, I think he also must have been happy just to have somebody new in his life. You know, it's a very isolated existence, you know, being in prison. And so I think that there must have been a kind of degree of delight that he had. And that kind of ran parallel to what we were experiencing, because we were all kind of coming together from, you know, 4 months of being in our own sort of isolation, because it was right, you know, I met Amber on March, I think it was the 16th of March, you know, a day before New York announced it was going into lockdown. So I just, like, the next day I woke up, I was in California, I flew on a plane and, you know, went home and locked in with my wife, and we just sort of, you know, so we had this kind of relish of being all together and meeting new people, and the excitement that came with that, I think, was kind of informative to the relationship and dynamic that these two men had. So it was another lucky charm.
Was there any other kind of I know the Ted Bundy is quite shocking anyway, but was there any other eye-opening facts that you actually learnt about him?
You know, there's a lot of there was it's all stuff that I really it's no, I mean, you know, there's a kind of there's, because of how he was and the sort of the path of destruction that he left was so violent and cruel. I don't really feel like participating in anything that would, like, you know, validate big curiosities around the complexities of this person. I really felt a kind of shallowness at the end of the day with him. He just seemed to have a, you know, was a real cowardly aspect to him that you know, I think reflects people, you know, that, you know, that is a reflection in other people to this day, you know, people that present themselves as being rugged individuals, you know, the masters of their destiny. self-obsessed, narcissists, this kind of people that are obsessed with optics and how they present themselves to the world. And as soon as they get caught doing anything wrong, they will immediately castigate society or blame something else. They never, for all of their kind of individual might, they never take accountability for the worst things that they do. So that was kind of what I walked away with it from. I mean, there are things in terms of the research that were so horrifying and stomach churning, but those were revelations that are just really awful. But I can't talk about them.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. On a lighter note, just before I leave you, I mean, you've had some great roles, from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to Gossip Girl, but has there been a role that you turned down that you regret not taking?
No. I mean, I don't know that I've turned down a role ever. I can't think of one, and I don't. I would hate to be haunted by that feeling. One of the, you're really lucky to get to do this at any juncture. I feel it's a pretty lucky job to have in any capacity. And anytime I see somebody doing something where there have certainly been roles that I had hoped to get and that didn't come my way, but then when I see it, you every time I just watch the person who did it, and you just think they're the right person for it. Like, I just don't know. You have to kind of trust that the wheels are in some sort of correct motion, and that the job always goes to the right person. That's kind of the way to not go insane, at least.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Zara. Have a good day.